Hey, welcome back to the Positive Side Podcast. The host, Jeremy Todd. Glad you were tuning in. And you know what? I just love doing interviews. I love meeting new people and exciting people. I had this conversation just the other day. Someone asked me, said, Jeremy, I know you've been doing the show for a while. Why do you do the show? And I said, well, you know what? When I first started doing the show, now I think this is episode 557. And we
awesome.
were, all around the world, 200 countries around the world, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of downloads. So it's kind of exciting, but I like the conversations with interesting people because when you live in your own little world, you don't get to meet a lot of cool people. It's like who you see at your job to and from. But the way podcasting does, it changes the game for me. And it's allowed me to meet awesome people like my guest today. Edna Keep is in the house. Edna, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Jeremy. And I 100% agree with you. I meet the most amazing people on podcasts. And you know what else is really good is we get to share our connection to our audience, and they get to meet amazing people around the world.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's so cool. The last show I had, this is great. Last show I did was on. I interviewed a menopause coach, and off the top of my head, I can't remember. Just go back to listen to the show if you're out there listening. She was, man, dang it, but she was great. And I walked by today, and there's several people here in my small town of Fort Wayne. They're like, hey, I heard there was a guy. Hey, I heard your show about menopause. Should I listen to that? I'm like, absolutely, you should listen to that. What are you talking about? It's a conversation that they're like, why? What do you know about menopause? And I said, well, that's exactly why I want to have the conversation.
I had no idea, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's important for guys. I'm 43 years old, and it's at the very beginning of, for some people going into menopause, for some women going into menopause, and what do guys know about it? So I thought I'd share both sides of the story. How can a guy be more supportive in with a woman that's going through menopause, as well as what to know and what to learn for women as well. So it was great. But anyways,
exactly.
Let's talk about you, Ed. And now, one of the reasons I don't say allowed you to come on the show like it's that big of a deal, but I cancel a lot of people off the invite list. I want people with cool ass stories from people that struggle when they were younger to become successful in the end. Edna Keep, you are dominating real estate. I want you to tell my listeners a little bit about yourself, how you got started. And, because you talked about getting started at a super young age and some of the struggles you had, but now you're super successful and you're buying properties all around the world. Well, I know for Canada and US for sure, but talk a little bit about your story and how you got to where you are right now.
Well, I became a single mom at age 16, and a lot of people around me thought I was really limited at that point because I couldn't go to university. Really, I was a C student. I probably would have went to university anyway. So, suffering through regular boring jobs like receptionists and retail, different stuff like that. But early on, I got told many times, Jeremy, and you have to learn to live within your means. Imagine I'm earning $1,200 a month. I have to learn to live within my means. That's what I'm told. And I'm going, yeah, if I want to learn something, I want to learn how to be rich. I don't want to learn how to live within my means.
Yeah, exactly.
How limiting is that, right? And so I just started doing, self-study on the side, and I could never give up one before I moved to another. But I got a job out of high school in a clinic, and then I started studying while I was there, and I just kind of slowly moved up. But my real big catalyst to change, Jeremy, came when I decided to become a financial advisor, which I did, starting on a part-time basis. And my first year in full-time, I'd come from an administration job making $43,000 a year. Then my first year full-time, I made $67,000. The second year full-time, I made $187,000. And I went, okay, I'm there. I made it. Because I could just dreamed of making $100,000 a year. That was like, oh man, if I could ever make $100,000 a year, who'd ever need more than that?
Yeah, right.
And I learned once I got there that, that wasn't that much either. So then I kept going and going. And how we got into real estate was actually quite interesting. I had clients coming in to see me wanting to withdraw money from their mutual funds to invest in real estate. And I'm going, really? You won't do that? Like, in an asset class that it pays like 3% a year, which has been our inflationary rate for years, didn't understand it at all. And my client was wise enough to say to me, and you should check it out. There's more to real estate than that. And so we did. We started taking some classes and 2 years later, I sold my financial planning practice and went into real estate full time.
And the rest is history. I have a question for you though. I thought about this and I heard this today. Do you think you would be successful as you are right now if you didn't become a single mother at the age of 16?
Absolutely not. I think you do more for your kids than you ever do for yourself. And I think kind of almost respect was always a big thing for me, Jeremy, and kind of getting disrespected at that age for making some dumb choices really bothered me. And I just was always like, I'm going to show you, you know what I mean? And I didn't think I would have the drive if I hadn't had those challenges so early.
And the reason I asked that is because, I think I don't want to say it's impossible to, like, if you didn't struggle as a young person, whatever, you pick the age. I struggled terribly when I was younger, and I just always had this chip on my shoulder, like, you know what, F you, I'm going to become successful no matter what. And I'm never going to stop. And I think there's this subconscious feeling that I have constantly behind me that I'm going to fail again. I just feel like that, and I think that's what keeps me up at night. It gets me up early in the morning to continue to work my ass off. But I don't know if I would have ever had that if I would have been, if I would have came, the old saying, a silver spoon in your mouth. If I would have been born into wealth, I don't know if I would have been the same person. And I think for people that are out there struggling, I think there's a switch you have to turn one day. You have to turn that struggle into a hustle and actually start making money with it, but use it to your advantage. Yeah. How do you help people? Now, you mentioned you help people. Maybe you didn't mention, but you do help people become independently wealthy through real estate, and you coach people one-on-one. What are some tips? Now, I guess this is twofold. Number one, if you are struggling in life, maybe you are younger in age, maybe you're 40, 50, 60 years old, whatever, you're still struggling. What do you do to get out of that rut? And can anybody do it?
You know what? I think anybody can do it. And this is why, because I've seen people do it. I've seen people do it in my program. The number one thing I think people need to do is get around people they want to be like, not stay around people that they don't want to be like, and take advice from people they don't admire their life. Sure. So getting around people who can help elevate you is huge. And when I became a financial advisor, that was one of the biggest things I did. Is we were bought out. Our small company was bought out by a larger company. They brought us around these people who were earning $1 million a year. That's when I was earning like 100, right? And they sat us among these groups, and they're doing all the training and stuff. And they asked the people in the audience, "How many of you here have a coach?" And I looked around because I'm thinking, won't be all these really rich people because they already got it made. They were the ones with their hands up. They all had a coach. So I went, okay, before I left the workshop that day, I'd hired my first coach back in 1999. I've never been without one since. I'm working with 2, 3 at a time. And that is so huge. Like working with people who are beyond what you're doing. Because I don't like working with a coach who's just a cheerleader kind of coach. I've always worked with coaches who've been there, done that, have the t-shirt of what I want, because I think being around those people is worth every penny to pay for it, is what changes my life.
You are so right on. And I tell you what, if you go back and listen to like the last 10 episodes, that's all I talk about. If you want to be successful, find other people that are successful doing what you're doing and go ask them how to do it. Yeah. Go hire somebody, because then at the end of the day too, if you don't hire a coach, you can have your friends and they're going to be great and they're going to help you out, but they're not going to put you on Front Street when you start screwing up. You need to take money out of your pocket and invest in a coach. I've said it a million times. If you, you're exactly right. Find somebody that's done it and then go pay them and let them show you how to do it. It's so important. And no one really does that. But you're exactly right. Like you said, you went to the conference and all the successful people in the room who has a coach, and they all raised their hand. I have a coach. You have a coach. We should all have a coach. How do you coach people? Like, what do you coach? How do you take somebody like from day one? Explain a little bit about your coaching program. What does that look like?
Sure. But can I give you a stat first? I
Oh,
think you'll
please.
love this
Love
and you'll want
stats.
to share it with people,
All
especially
right.
if you work with coaches. A coach that I actually mastermind with, he did this just over years of research. He told me that if you're earning less than 100,000 a year, you probably have zero coaches. If you're earning 100,000 a year and above, you probably have one coach. If you're earning 200 to 400,000, you probably have two coach. And if you're earning over 500,000 a year, you probably have 4 or 5 coaches. And when he read me that stat, I started looking back in my life. That was exactly what happened, because we start to see, man, that made such a difference in my life. But then you kind of hit the ceiling with that coach. And then it's like, okay, next, man, that made such a difference. And every single time I've worked with a coach, I've learned something. And in most cases, huge stuff that made a huge catalyst for difference for me. Does that resonate with you when
100%. And
yeah.
I'm just, what I'm thinking about, what kind of coaches do you have? Because I'm interested. I need to get a health coach of some sort. And I don't want a health coach that says, I don't want a personal trainer. I don't want that. I want someone to keep me in line. So, I have a coach that's a business strategist coach. I have a mental coach, but I'm missing a health coach. I need a health coach. What kind of coaches do you have? And I guess that's just the only question I got is what kind of coaches do you have and why do you have them?
Well, you know what? I've had a personal trainer for years because I'm kind of lazy, and if I do it on my own, I'm going to work that hard. So I actually go to her place and I work out 2 or 3 times a week, usually 2, and I love it. And if I book that appointment, I show up. She always works me harder than I'd ever work myself. So I have a personal trainer for years and years. Currently, I'm working with a mindset and spiritual coach combination, business strategist coach. I'm working with somebody who his business is coaching me on YouTube ads, not just me, but also my staff. I have another coach that is working with me on becoming an authority using Facebook. So I have one coach that does also with sales. So the sales and mindset and spiritual stuff, that's one coach, but I work with him in 3 different capacities. The Facebook authority, the YouTube ads coach, and then my personal trainer. So 6 people right now.
I love that.
And they change off sometimes.
You're running your business like a business, and it's very respectful. And I love what you're doing. I love you getting people involved too. It's like swallowing your ego, swallowing your pride, saying, I can't do this by myself. I need to hire other people to help. And I think that's what people looking and listening to you and say, how do I be successful in real estate? You're one of those people. Hey, how can I get to where she's at? Spend money and get to where you're at. I mean, I hate this sounds like it's so damn easy, but I guess it's not, it's simple. It's not easy, or whatever that saying is. It's easy. It's not simple. It's simple. And whatever it is. But I think that's what you got to do is actually take the time and hire a coach, but actually do it. So thank you for sharing that. But I've got other questions about your day. I love talking to successful people and what their day looks like. How do you bookend your day? Walk me through what time you wake up in the morning, what time you get rolling for work, what time you go to bed. What do you do to bookend your day?
So I get up at 5:45 and I get ready. But as I'm getting ready, I put my earbuds in and I'm listening to my own personal affirmations, my new self-image that I'm working on. I listen to that while I'm getting ready because you can't do anything else, right? Doing the hair, doing the makeup, making the breakfast, making the coffee. Then I have a buddy that I meet with as part of my spiritual practice, and we read together. Right now we're reading The Power of the Subconscious Mind from the Napoleon Hill book. And we don't just read it, we study it. So we study that. We read the same 7 pages over and over for 2-3 weeks at a time. It's part of our practice. And then I will do my other stuff. Like I write out my goals every single day. I say my affirmations every single day, auto suggestions. And then how I like to get my day booked is I bring people into my coaching program through doing strategy calls with them. So I call those my big rocks. That's my sales opportunity during the day. Those are booked first. And then I talk to my students around those, and I give myself lots of free time to be able to talk to them between bookings and stuff. And so that's generally how every single day works. I have a few different days. Like I know every Wednesday morning I have a mastermind group that meets where we're pushing and encouraging each other and sharing strategies and stuff like that. On Tuesday evenings, I spend 90 minutes with my students, and I work Saturday mornings too with either my students or my strategy calls. So that's typically what a week looks like for me.
What time do you go to bed?
10 o'clock.
Every night?
Every night. Once in a while on the weekends a little bit later, but most of the time 10.
Do you wake up at 5:45 on, you said 5:45, right? Do you wake up on 5:45 on Saturday and Sunday morning?
I do.
Okay. And again, I'm just more curious than anything, because you hear people say, well, I'm going to take my weekends off, but I think weekends are opportunities that you don't change your schedule up on the weekends.
And it's so automatic for me. I can't even sleep past that time, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting you say, because I wake up at like my alarm clock set for 5:45 every day. And I wake up at 5:30, 5:44.
Usually a little earlier.
5:40. It's so bizarre. Like I wake up like a minute before my alarm, and it's constant. It's all the time. It's so weird.
Yeah,
but I think when you, I think when you love what you do and your mind's set up to this is what my time I get up. That's just what you do. I mean, it's, you know, I run across salespeople that they come in late, or they're just not driven enough. They don't have goals. They don't have dreams. And I don't understand it. So, you know, it is what it is.
You know, I think goals are meant for us to get better. A lot of people set a goal because they want something, but really a goal is meant for us to grow. And, you know, at different points in my life, Jeremy, I felt, oh my gosh, I'm successful. Well, you know, when I went from earning $1,200 a month to $100,000 a year, it was like, that was huge for me. And I remember thinking I was successful. And, you know, I did go up to about 300, but around there I stagnated, and I stayed there for about 5 years in a row, because I was like, well, I'm already successful. And I stopped setting the goals that I used to set. And so I just kind of, you know, flatlined. And then I got tired of what I was doing, got bored with it. That's when I got into real estate, then, you know, up again. Then I would hit another plateau that was like beyond what I could have dreamed at the time. And now that I'm really understanding it, those goals that we set are meant for us to grow. And you know how you mentioned earlier that the struggles, when you set big goals, you have to struggle to get to them. You have to, because your biggest successes come from your biggest failures.
That's such a great quote too. And I work with Southwestern Consulting and Rory Vaden. I'm not sure if you know who Rory Vaden is. And there's this goal strategy that he talks about. And one of the things in there, one of the questions in there, they say, what's that big, gigantic goal that if you told people about it, they would tell you you're crazy and it would scare you to death. And then the question right after that is it big enough? So it makes you think about this gigantic goal that, oh my God, I'd be so scared to tell somebody about it. There's no chance I'm going to hit it. And then you're right after that, you're asked, is it big enough? And I always wonder that, like, I always set these goals and I'm like, well, is that big enough? And then I'm like, well, no, I could probably do a little bit more. And then I'm like, well, shit, is that big enough? You know, I mean, it continues to go. And I visualize things constantly. Do you do a vision board?
Yes. Yeah.
What is your big goal?
And I have papers all over my desk and affirmations all over my desk and sticky notes here and there.
I'm the same way. Yeah. I think that's so important to do that. It just keeps you focused and it's always in front of you. Yeah. What is your big
My big, goal? Hairy, audacious goal
is
to make $1,000 a month from my coaching business alone. No, what did I say? $1 million a month is my goal. $1 million a month. Yeah. And that's big because it's like, oh, that's out there. It's like it's out there. But yeah, it's a little seed planted right here that I'm going to water and nurture and go after.
I'm sure you'll get it. And I'm sure you, and again, if you don't ever have the goal, you're never going to hit it anyways, you know, so you might as well set the goal and go after it.
Does it hurt, right? It never hurts.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, you know, shoot for the stars and land on the moon. I mean, if, you know, I'm sure obviously $1 million a month is your goal, but if you hit 500 a month, 500K a month for coaching, that'd be pretty good too. But
oh gosh, yes.
Yeah, it is what it is. We're talking to Edna Keep, and she's obviously a real estate beast, coach, game changer. She can change your life. Reach out to her, and all her connections will be in the show notes. Edna, one of my favorite books of all time is by John Maxwell, Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. He's got 7 questions in there. Are you ready for the 7 questions from John Maxwell?
I am ready.
You like John Maxwell?
Love John Maxwell.
Okay, well, I was say, how can you not love John Maxwell? He's the greatest. But question number 1 from John Maxwell's book is, Edna, what is the greatest lesson you've ever learned?
Greatest lesson I've ever learned is that I have a direct connection with the universe.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I believe that I believe everybody has a direct connection to the universe, that you're never alone. And that if you're shooting for big goals, it has to happen because you're guided by the universe and based on the goals that you set.
So what happens after you die?
I believe we're reincarnated and we come back and learn more lessons.
So it's funny. I just did an episode right before you and I got on about, I went to a funeral yesterday and I started thinking about like, what happens after we die? And whether you're spiritual, religious, if you believe in the universe, a higher being, the second, what happens? Do you come back, and what do you come back as? Is that what deja vu is all about? Have you already experienced this in a different multi-universe? And I always think about these weird things, but it also keeps me asking questions, and it makes me inquisitive, and I enjoy doing that as well. So that's why I asked you that question. But
yeah.
Question number 2 is, what are you learning now?
What am I learning now? I'm actually studying a course to become a certified manifestation coach.
Certified manifestation coach. Walk me through that. Because obviously the first thing I think about manifestation coach is the book, The Secret. I read that about 20 years ago. It's a great book, but it has the lack of action in the book. I don't think you can just sit on the sidelines and just hope you become a millionaire. You got to take action.
No, you absolutely cannot. But it starts with controlling the way that you think. And I believe that when you can take control of your thoughts, you can have absolutely anything that you want in the world. I've learned to do that. And I'm still learning. I don't think anybody ever gets there, if you know what I mean. But yeah. I'm able to help people manifest stuff like just to say, for example, in my real estate business, I coach and train people to purchase multifamily. I get them to use their mind. You mentioned visualizing before, visualizing that goal every single night before they go to sleep, walking themselves through that building, counting the doors, telling their mom or their dad or their kids, hey, remember I set that goal? Look what I'm doing. And visualizing that little end scene every single night, because your imagination, your subconscious mind does not know the difference between real and imagined. So it can either happen in real life and make you believe it, or you can imagine it's happening and that is how your goals come into fruition too.
So true. I tell my clients that, when you think of the word ice cream, you don't think of ICECREAM, you think of an ice cream cone. And again, it goes back to the visualization that our mind is. And that's why I think a vision board is so important as well. Question number 3 for Edna Keep is, Edna, how has failure shaped your life?
I have adopted a belief, and I haven't had this belief my whole life, but I've adopted belief that everything happens to me for a reason. Everything happens for me, not to me, but for me. Every single failure and challenge I've ever had takes me to a new level. And I used to be worried about failing, like, what if I fail? Now it's like, I don't freaking care, because I got to figure it out. You fail, you learn big. And I embody that whole thing. So not that I'm ever out there like totally searching, like you're like people, I'm searching for failure. Yeah. I'm not that quite there yet, but I don't believe that it ever holds you back. I believe every single time there's a stepping stone lesson to be learned, and everything that comes about it. My coaching program came about because of stuff that was not working for me based on the education I'd got. And it was like, yeah, there's something missing here. And that's how my whole education program came about, was because of my own personal challenge with the stuff that was happening with us in the real estate world that I felt was just missing.
Well, you're exactly right with it. With things don't happen to you, they happen for you. That is I think it's understated how important that really is, because we can say that, but the actual reality of that is a different thing, because it's so hard for people to get around that. They don't ever get, they think it's, oh, woe is me, instead of saying, hey, this was for me, it's going to make me stronger. And that's a big mental shift for a lot of people that it's one of those ones that some people don't ever get over, unfortunately.
And you know what I noticed, Jeremy? A lot of people try to protect their kids from having any failures. And I think that's the worst thing we can do to them, because then we just raise a bunch of suck asses, right? So, pardon my language. Yeah, because they can function in the real world. They need to be able to make that decision that didn't work out, that showed them a different path or whatever. Yeah.
I am so glad you said that, because could not be more right. My kids are homeschooled, and I put them in situations so they mess up. And then if they do mess something up, it's reality. And you are so right with this weak ass society that we have, bringing up our kids that are weak. They can't have conversations. You can't tell them no. They don't know how to feel failure, but they don't know how to rise above that either. And that's a real skill to have. And I see some of these kids out there that, the participation trophies for everybody. That doesn't do anything for your kid. Your kid needs to lose. I'm sorry. They need to lose and fight and struggle. And then when they lose, they get that feeling in their head. They're like, damn, I don't want to feel that again. So I'm going to get better. And it drives them. And without that feeling of loss, they never get it anywhere else. And it's kind of scary it's scary for a lot of people for the future, but it's not for me, for my kids, because my kids are going to be badasses and they fail all the time. So yeah. It's like a double-edged sword. I feel bad for them, but my kids are going to dominate these other kids. So it's going to be great.
I would make them phone their own babysitter. Like, if we went out in the evenings, we worked from home, so we were around during the day, but if we ever went out in the evening, I'd say, who do you want to babysit you tonight? And they always had their favorites, the ones that would play with them. And I'd say, okay, phone them, see if they're available. And, they don't even think, they never thought anything of it. I know people that would have terrified their kids that they had to phone a babysitter. What if they told me no? I used to make them phone. They were big into dance. I used to make them phone and book their own dance classes. I said, just tell them, send me the bill, but you decide which ones you want to take. I don't even know what most of them are, and I think just getting them to do that kind of stuff when they were young, but they booked our flights when they were young, like everything, because it's like, why not? Why make that a big, scary thing?
Right? Such a great tip for parents out there. My youngest just turned 15 today, and like I said, I have him do everything. I don't do anything for him, but I've never had him book flights. I've never had him book hotels. I've never. That is so cool. And I think I'm going to start doing that with my kids. That is great advice. And I think every parent out there listening to the show should do the same thing for their kids, no matter what their age is, right? I mean, what's the worst they're going to say? No, you can't do this. Okay, here, get the phone back. But again, it's getting them used to hearing no. And it's also having them be involved with adult conversations too, which, kids stuck behind computers nowadays and playing games, they don't know how to talk to anybody either. Yeah. And that's a big problem also going into the future for a lot of kids. So
even like booking their own appointments, dental, hair, whatever. I will sit, if they're not sure what to say, I say, make the phone call, I'll sit right here. And then you ask me, so then they'll say, well, she's asking me this. And so we'll tell her this. And then and then pretty soon it's like, I don't even need to be included because they got it all figured out. Right?
That is so awesome. I love it. I'm going to implement that today.
It's a good idea.
It's a great idea. It's a great idea.
And my girls are so independent. Like they're 19 and 17 now. And lots of people think, oh my God, my girls have the most freedom. I don't tell them what time to come home, go to bed, nothing. And you know what? They never miss school. They sleep in the odd time. Like they're amazing. But I have never done that. I've never policed their homework. Every once in a while, the teacher will send stuff to me. The kids should do this. I just forward the email, say, hey, teacher says you're not doing this. That's the last to hear from me about it.
That's it.
They pick up their own socks, not me.
Absolutely. I love that. Question number 4 is, who do you know that I should know?
When you first came on and you were telling me about your podcast, I immediately thought of a couple different people that you should know. One is Denise Drinkwalter. She's a parent coach. And what she does is she helps people maintain relationships with their adult children. And she's a lady I mastermind with. Totally love her to pieces. She'd be a great addition to your show.
Yeah.
And then one of my business partners who's helped me with expanding into the US, he does capital raising course for people, and he's also just the most amazing person to have on your show. Like a lot. He came from Poland when he was like
cool.
3-4 years old, and like he's raised capital like $250,000 over $250 million over the last 10 years of his life.
Cool. I would love to meet both of them. I love the connection.
I'll send you the connections.
Yeah, that would be great. You know, the gentleman Polish, my family's Polish. I know zero Polish, but my mother's maiden name is Lubomirsky, and we are big. She's my grandparents are both not living anymore, but they're right off the boat from Poland. So that would be great to have them on.
Or have him on. He's got an interesting story. I
can't wait to hear it.
Yeah.
Question number 5 is what have you read that I should read?
Have you ever read the book? I think you'll love this too. Robert Kiyosaki's book called Why Do A Students Work for C Students and B Students Work for the Government?
I have not read that book. I've heard of it. I've not read that book.
It was a catalyst for me because, I was a C student in school. And
of
course, by the teachers and everything else, there's nothing good about that. And I also had a brother just older than me that was an A student and an ace in sports and everything else. So I was compared my whole life. And always felt like I was lacking. And it wasn't until I read that book that I realized that all the stuff that I was punished and looked down upon in school is exactly what's brought me to this level today.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I was going to ask you something too about that. Oh yeah. Robert Kiyosaki has recently gotten into cryptocurrency. Are you in the crypto?
No.
Are you going to get into cryptocurrency?
I doubt it. My kids might, but it's beyond me right now.
I think you should. And I think you should buy some Cardano. Cardano is going to be in it. I don't think it's going anywhere. And if Robert Kiyosaki is saying get in the crypto, I think you should get in the crypto. You should put your toes in the water and see what happens, because again, I don't think it's going anywhere.
We've actually tried to buy it a couple times and we couldn't even buy it. It was so complicated.
Go to Coinbase.com. I own Coinbase stock, so it's a cheap plug. Go to Coinbase.com, and it's super, super easy. You can buy anything you want through in Canada as well.
Probably about 5 years ago that we tried to do it, and it was like,
look, if you would have bought crypto 5 years ago, I mean, who knows what you would have bought, but it would have been way, way up. So you should buy. Imagine this conversation 5 years from now. You're going to say, you know what, that guy Jeremy told me to buy something called Cardano. And I bought Cardano 5 years ago and it's gone up tenfold. I think you should do it. I think you should put $1,000 in it and just watch it, and you'll be shocked.
I'll give my 19-year-old's been making really, really good tips. She's just out of high school, so she's working as a server and making really good tips. And she's always asking me where she should invest her money. I'm going to tell her. What did you say it was called?
Well, she can use Coinbase to sign up and then buy Cardano. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. But I've got quite a bit of money in Cardano. I think it's going to the moon. And I've heard the founder of Cardano on Lex Friedman's podcast. Are you familiar with Lex Friedman's podcast? Oh my, you're missing out. You got to listen to Lex Friedman. He is brilliant. Lex Friedman. Yeah. Lex Friedman, I think.
Okay.
He is I think he's an astrophysicist. Don't quote me on that, but genius. And he has a great podcast. You should definitely check it out.
Okay, I will.
Question number 6 is, what have you done that I should do?
What have I done that you should do? Have you ever been in a smash up derby?
No.
You should do that. It's fun. I was in one once, and I actually even won.
What kind of car were you driving?
You know what? I don't even know. My brother, I have 6 brothers. My brothers were big into cars and the old, like heavy beater cars, right?
Oh, sure.
The really heavy ones. And they, in our hometown, they would have these smash up derbies where you could like just ram into each other with the vehicles until the vehicles quit. And then whoever was the last person standing was the winner. And you couldn't hit the driver's door. There was no glass, and you had to wear a helmet and goggles and all this kind of stuff. You know what? It was still to this day, probably the most thrilling thing I've I've ever done. It was so much fun. And then to win, and I think it lasted like all of 2 minutes of smashing each other up. It was extra exciting.
Well, I've never heard that on the show, so I appreciate you sharing that. That is a first, and I appreciate you sharing that story.
I don't even know if they do them anymore. That was many years ago.
I think they do. Again, I'm in Indiana. So Indiana is home of the Hillbillies, so I guarantee you we are smashing cars somewhere around here. And maybe they're not even sanctioned events. Maybe they're just a bunch of hillbillies in the cornfield banging up against each other. So that could be happening too.
Exactly.
But hey, you never know. I might end up doing that one time. Final question for Edna Keep. Edna, how can I add value to you?
Well, you know what? After chatting with you, you've already gave me a couple things. You told me to check out Lex's podcast, and I will. And you told me to check out Coinbase Cardano, so I'm going to check out that.
Yeah. And
you know what? If you share me with your audience, I think that's wonderful. You never know; people might be interested in getting into real estate. And I'm the multifamily lady that teaches people how to buy real estate with investor capital.
Well, that would be great. I would recommend everybody to reach out to you because, again, if you're, and this goes out to everybody that I've talked about this on the show at 10 million times, if you're doing the same thing year after year after year, and you're in the exact same spot year after year after year, when's it going to change? When are you going to do something different? Maybe this is the opportunity to reach out to Edna and say, Edna, I'm stuck. I need to figure this out. I love real estate. Make me a millionaire. And you are going to do that for people. And tell everybody where they can find you.
Best way to reach me is on my website, ednakeep.com. And I'm all over social media, YouTube. I got videos everywhere. I always recommend that people check out a few of the videos, make sure it's even something you're interested in. And then if people want to explore it further, I invite them to, through my channels, they'll be invited to watch a short video. And then from there, if it really interests them, book a strategy call with me or one of my team, and we take it from there.
Well, I appreciate you spending time with me. Clear from Saskatchewan, Canada to Fort Wayne, Indiana. This podcast is going all around the world. And I appreciate you spending time with us. I've learned a ton today. And I'm really glad I booked you on this show. You seem super awesome. And you're the type of person I love on the show. Someone that struggled from a young age, single mother, making no money, to making enough money and being extremely successful. So I'm super proud of you. And I love that you're on the show. So if I can be an help for you, obviously reach out. But everybody around the world, obviously the way to get a hold of her will be in the show notes. So you can obviously find her there. Like and share this episode. Subscribe to me on YouTube. Find me on Facebook. The Facebook page is going well. And actually the downloads are going really well lately too, which I'm not sure why. I think it's maybe people can't find anything else to listen to. And they found the show, which is great. I love it. I mean, hey, I'm not complaining. It's awesome. I say it in every single episode, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. You've got greatness within. Like always, this is the positive side.